Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking 3 genuinely unsettling motel encounters. And look, we're doing way more than just swapping spooky campfire tales here. We're actually going to extract the real-world safety lessons hidden right inside these experiences. That way, you'll know exactly what red flags to look out for on your very next late-night drive. You know, there's a saying out there that staying in a creepy motel is perhaps how to do a speed run of meeting dangerous people. And man, that perfectly hits the nail on the head for what we're talking about today. It really captures that completely universal, totally vulnerable experience of road trip exhaustion. You know the feeling, right? You're dead tired, it's pitch black outside, and you pull into some bare-bones roadside stop just to get a few hours of shut-eye. You're completely unaware of the psychological terror that might be waiting on the other side of that flimsy wooden door. So let's get into story 1, the one-man argument. This is a 1 a.m. stop in Virginia. Picture this. An exhausted solo driver returning from New York pulls into a pretty rough 2-floor motel. He gets a room on the 2nd floor, just praying for some quiet, but almost instantly he hears an intense argument bleeding right through those paper-thin walls. There's a deep, angry voice and a soft, nervous voice. But, well, the timing is super suspicious. There is absolutely zero overlap between the speakers. Nobody is talking over anyone else, which, let's be real, is incredibly rare for an actual heated fight. So the terrifying realization hits the driver right as he mutes his TV. The couple fighting next door, it's actually just one highly disturbed man flawlessly mimicking 2 distinct voices. From there, things rapidly escalate from just bizarre to a literal physical threat. First, minute 1. The fake argument abruptly stops, leaving this suffocating, heavy silence. Then, minute 2, 3 slow, heavy knocks vibrate the shared wall right beside the driver's bed. Shortly after that, the horrifying squeak of the neighboring door opening echoes outside, followed by the agonizing vibration of heavy footsteps walking along the balcony, coming directly toward the driver's room. And right in the middle of all that, right after those heavy knocks on the wall, the driver hears a muffled, playful whisper slipping through the drywall. "I hear you in there." Just imagine the sheer localized dread of realizing this unstable person isn't just acting out some random fantasy anymore. No, he has focused his attention entirely on you. The situation totally explodes at this point. The driver makes the gut-wrenching decision to peek through a tiny crack in the window blinds and instantly makes direct eye contact with wide, manic eyes staring right back at him. Then the guy starts aggressively pounding on the driver's door while doing this bizarre multi-accent voice acting, literally switching between childish high pitches and an exaggerated southern drawl. Obviously, this prompts a frantic, immediate call to the front desk for help. So the front desk actually intervenes and thankfully relocates the driver to a room downstairs. You'd think the nightmare ends right there, right? Actually, scratch that. The Hitchcock-level terror comes right back when the driver wakes up later in the pitch dark. He looks over at the window and sees a calm shadow pacing past the crack in the blinds. It is the exact same man. No voices this time, no knocking, just silently and calmly pacing past the window over and over again until sunrise, just watching the room. Absolutely chilling. All right, moving on to story 2, the overheard room number. A college road trip takes a dark turn. Back in 2022, a family of women, we're talking a college freshman, her sisters, stepmom, and grandmother, pull into this random Oklahoma highway motel at 8 p.m. Notice a man in a black sweater just standing idle by the entrance, not doing much. But fast forward to 11 p.m., and that same man is now sitting in a pitch-black corner of the lobby, whispering on his phone. What makes this completely horrifying is that during both of those lobby encounters, the grandmother called to ask where everyone was, and the sister loudly announced their exact room number right in front of this lingering stranger. Barely 20 minutes after they settle into their rooms, the tension just snaps. The stepmom opens her door to put some trash out in the hall and comes face to face with a silent man standing completely still, pressed right against the 2nd floor wall. He doesn't look surprised at all. He just stares at her, dead-eyed, and then calmly slips into the dark, empty room that happens to directly separate their 2 family rooms. This whole sequence is a textbook example of a highly coordinated threat happening in real time. The family instantly packs up to flee. They are out of there. The stepmom demands a full refund at the front desk. But as they rush outside, they see the first man, the guy from the lobby, stepping out of the elevator. Then they catch a second man literally cupping his hands to their car windows. testing the door handles. The lobby stranger signals to him. A third man appears out of absolute nowhere, and all three of them begin slowly, purposefully walking toward the women's car, forcing them to speed off into the night. The freshman later said, "I still don't know what those men were planning to do. I'm incredibly glad we left before finding out." That right there anchors us to a primal, universal survival instinct. These women did not wait around to gather evidence. They didn't stick around to play detective and uncover the plot. They trusted their gut, slammed on the gas, and drove until 3 a.m. just to escape whatever trap was being set for them. Okay, let's move to our final case study today. Story 3, The Trenchcoat Watcher. This happens 11 hours in to a grueling 17-hour drive. A couple pulls into a completely dead, unlit motel at 1 a.m., checking into room 5 at the far corner of the ground floor. When the narrator leaves the door cracked open for just a second to fetch a phone charger from his car, he runs into a massive man right outside wearing an unseasonable trench coat. Now, the man was what you'd call soft-spoken. He had this polite, really gentle vocal tone. But when you combine a soft voice with a massive stranger lingering in the pitch black at 1 a.m., it creates this terrifying psychological dissonance. The guy makes this deflective small talk about just going for a stroll, which immediately sends off massive, glaring alarm bells for the narrator. So the narrator rushes back inside, throws the deadbolt, and literally drops to his knees. He crawls over to the window, pulls back a tiny, tiny sliver of the curtain, and is greeted by a horrifying reality. A 10-minute staring contest. The man in the trench coat hasn't left. He's just standing there, completely frozen in the dark, staring directly at their motel room door for 10 agonizing minutes. Unable to bear that kind of tension alone, he wakes his sleeping girlfriend, Julie. She crawls to the window, looks out, and whispers, "He's not there." But the narrator tells her to look harder. She gasps. The man hadn't left at all. He had just silently moved all the way across the parking lot and turned back around. Now, instead of staring at the door, he was staring directly at their window. He knew exactly what they were doing. He knew they were watching him. For the next hour, the couple just lies awake in bed, secretly clutching a blunt object in the dark. They are completely paralyzed by the distinct, unmistakable sound of footsteps pacing right outside their ground floor glass window. The terror of knowing this massive guy was separated from them by just a thin pane of glass, honestly, it's unimaginable. But the ultimate twist arrives the next morning when they finally go to check out. The front desk owner reveals a terrifying number. 1. They were the one and only registered guests at that entire motel that night. Which means that man in the trench coat who claimed to be staying upstairs, he was never staying there at all. He was literally just waiting in the dark. Wow. All right, let's pivot to the Campfire Survival Guide, Rules for Motel Safety. We're going to synthesize these wild experiences into some really actionable red flags for your next road trip. At the end of the day, survival ultimately comes down to your situational awareness. First off, never, ever announce your room number out loud in a public lobby. Keep your location a strict secret. Second, trust your gut if a stranger is lingering in the dark or unnecessarily pacing around. Don't let polite small talk override your eternal alarms. Third, beware of bizarre environmental anomalies, like an argument with zero overlap between the voices. And finally, realize that the absolute cheapest option might end up costing you your safety. It's incredibly relatable, isn't it? As the source material points out, I feel like the 2 times you book a motel are when you're on a road trip or want to offset the costs. We have all been exactly there. You're struggling to keep your heavy eyes open on a dark highway, and you opt for that bare-bones roadside stop just to save a few bucks and get some rest. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to consider the next time you're totally exhausted and pull off at some dimly lit highway exit. When you truly factor in the psychological toll, the vulnerability, and your own personal, physical safety, is that cheap room really worth the risk? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay safe out there, and always, always trust your gut.